Aflag and Praise TV proudly present Rights in Focus with Aflag.
In today's world, internet has become the baseline for everything that we do, connecting people, promoting economic empowerment, promoting education, and even saving lives. But then what happens when we have people deliberately cutting or stopping this freedom just for their own political or selfish interests? In 2024 alone, we have access now and keep it on collation. Collate over 296 cases in 54 countries. Why should this persist? What are some of the things that we can do? We need people to be able to express themselves or voice out when they are being oppressed, when their rights are being infringed on through the internet. In times of election, during protests, as we saw what happened in Nigeria in 2020. Here in Ghana, we've not experienced full-on internet shutdown, but the conversation around digital rights is more relevant now than ever. We have seen increasing concerns about cyberbullying, online harassment, and censorship, particularly with issues like internet bullying, porn, revenge, and misinformation. We are going to discuss internet shutdown and how it affects our basic human rights. To help us do this, we have with us a very beautiful woman, a very bilingual woman who is a social activist here to help us unpack this. Welcome, Felicia Antonio. It's Antonio or Antonia?
Antonio.
Antonio. Welcome, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Nupe. And I just want to say that you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Drawing attention to fundamental human rights and issues around human rights, because that is something we need to talk more about in the country. So congrats for putting this together and all the great work that you do with Aflag.
Thank you so much. And I also want to commend you for all the great things you've been doing. I see you are literally globetrotting, moving everywhere, campaigning on internet shutdown. So it's so good. She's the best person to have on the show to discuss this particular topic. Now, before we delve into it, Felicia, I want us to tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into this space.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's quite interesting. When I was growing up, I had no idea this space existed. And just like every young person, you want to be a lawyer, doctor, you know. And then, so fast forward, I studied French and psychology at the University of Ghana.
Yeah.
Computer was not my friend. I had my first computer when I was in like level 300.
Oh, okay.
Because I needed it for research and things like that. So I completed with French and psychology as my first degree. And then I went to France to do my master's in international business. So you can see that what I'm doing right now has nothing to do with my background.
No correlation whatsoever.
Exactly. So when I came back, I decided to come back home after my master's to look at what is happening in the space. Where can I get a job? Like, you know how we all need to survive. And so you just find the first job. And then I got internship at Media Foundation for West Africa, which focuses on press freedom advocacy.
I was surprised when I saw that you had left them.
Oh, yeah, I'm still one of their very good former staff. Anyway, so yeah, I joined Media Foundation for West Africa as an intern, working on issues of press freedom. So I was focusing on freedom of expression rights, access to information, safety of journalists issues. And then there was one time where, like, you know, advocacy, and then I heard Uganda has shut down social media around elections. This was in 2016. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then we put out like statements to advocate that the government restore access. And then fast forward 2017, Cameroon does it again. And I was like, okay, this is actually a thing. And for Cameroon, I really felt the impact because most of the journalists I was in touch with would normally send me information on WhatsApp, Facebook. Like,
but they could not.
They could not.
Whoa.
So just imagine a journalist has been arrested or been attacked, and you're trying to put that information out there, and you're not
getting anything
to information. And so I just started advocating against internet shutdowns through that The shutdown lasted over 94 days, so
Whoa.
you can imagine.
Whoa.
And this was in the Anglophone region of Cameroon. And so that is what brought my interest in the space. And then in 2020, I joined Access Now, which is a global organization that defends and extends digital rights of people and communities at risk. And I lead the Keep It On campaign,
yeah.
which is a global campaign against internet shutdown. So it was launched in 2016 specifically to fight internet shutdowns. And around that time, a lot of governments were normalizing the use of internet shutdowns. And so right now we have about 345 organizations as members of the coalition
nice.
in over 105 countries
Great.
globally.
Great.
And
then you're gradually making a huge impact.
yes, it's the issue is becoming really important,
Yeah.
and so it's important for us.
And
to
people are now
continue
becoming more aware. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, so that is my background.
For me, to be very honest, before the Nigeria issue happened, it was on your feed. I got to know about it. So I'm like, okay, so as educated and empowered as I am, I do not even know anything like internet shutdown as it. So I want you to explain or define what internet shutdown is. Explain it in a very basic term
I will.
for people like me or those below me to be able to understand it.
Okay, so before I even explain to you like the explanation we use, just imagine you invited me for this show via WhatsApp.
Yeah.
We hadn't met before. Like, I know you, but we hadn't met to say, okay, this is where the meeting would be. You sent me the details on WhatsApp. You sent me the Google location, and that is how I got here. Yeah. Just imagine if I didn't have internet access.
Oh wow! I would have to look for your house,
meet you somewhere, and come on point, and then we show up. And then for someone that has been working remotely since 2020, I think it's not rocket science that I'm in the center of defending fundamental human rights, because I know and appreciate the importance of internet access. And so when we talk about an internet shutdown, what it means is when someone, usually someone in authority or someone that has the power to do so, would direct internet service providers. So in Ghana, for instance, like Telecel, MTN, Airtel, Tigo, is that what they are called now?
Yeah.
Yes. To disrupt internet access. And this could be in the form of restricting internet connectivity or shutting down social media, which has become really, really
essential too. Yeah.
Exactly. Or in some places, you see the governments would ask them to slow down the speed. So it's not a shutdown, but it's internet
deliberate
throttling. We call it throttling. And so you cannot do anything technically with the speed that is being out. So let's say if we in Ghana we're using 4G, they deteriorated to 2G. And so you cannot do anything with it. And so that is what an internet shutdown is. Why would any government want to do that? It's because...
So even before why, do the governments have the right to do that? Because it's more like freedom of expression. Sorry, freedom of expression. Do they have the right to deliberately order? Do you need regulations to do that? Because for me, I deal more with policies, regulations, laws. So do they have that right to do that?
Unfortunately, I can't remember on top of my head if there's any country that has
any regulation,
a law that says it's okay. But then you know how we have, let's say, Electronic Communications Act, you know, the exceptions that maybe the president or a government to restrict access in times of emergency or national security, which governments love a lot. And so they tend to find these excuses to disrupt internet access. But then they don't even cite what law they are using to back the shutdown. And they will normally say it's for national security reasons, to prevent the spread of misinformation, hateful content, you know, all the things they would like to use to justify that. And even in some countries, we've seen governments shutting down either the internet or social media platforms to prevent cheating during exams. And a most recent example is in Kenya, where Telegram was shut down last year around school exams. And then it's also very common in the Middle East and North Africa regions like Iraq and other places.
Then it's actually a thing.
Yes.
Because we don't experience it in Ghana, most of us do not even know
Yeah.
about that. If not for Nigeria, because Nigeria is closer to us, when it happened, people became aware. But it was even strange, alien to us.
Yeah,
so we need a lot of education
exactly
on this.
Yes, it's a really big issue. And surprisingly, countries that, like you keep saying Ghana, countries like Senegal, Comoros, Mauritius, Mozambique were examples of countries that had never shut down the internet. But in the last 2 years, I just mentioned Kenya.
So there's the possibility that citing Ghana as an exception could one day,
But it's also important to start the conversation and to engage the relevant stakeholders. Ghana has some international presence. For instance, we are part of the Freedom Online Coalition, which is advancing internet freedom around the globe. And so I wouldn't foresee that happening, but Kenya is a member of the Freedom Online Coalition, and this happened in Kenya. And so we just need to engage. This is a multi-stakeholder issue that we need to start talking about, and just letting governments know that you cannot restrict people's rights in that manner.
Okay, so from your reports, I see that Russia, Pakistan, and some other countries have been amongst the worst offenders in recent years. How has this whole internet shutdown thing been used in those countries to suppress their people?
So, as you said, in 2024, we saw 296 incidents of shutdowns, and the highest 4. If you put those 4 countries together, you have 209.
Oh my God!
Cases. So you can imagine, it's like 70% of the total number of shutdowns we documented globally. And Myanmar, it was the highest country where we recorded most of the shutdowns we documented. And if you remember, Myanmar saw a military coup d'etat in 2021, and since then the military has just controlled everything digital in the country. So from shutting down the internet, and this happens during airstrikes, conflicts. You know, it's not like a normal day you're sitting at the beach and the internet is shut down. This is when you are fighting to get access to information. So there's a conflict, you're trying to find safety. Where can I pass to go home? You know, and the internet is shut down.
Oh my God.
You cannot call maybe an Uber to get home safe. You know, like it's sometimes when we talk about it, people think it's so far away, but
it's not so far away, because this is our day-to-day life now. Like that is what happens. This is what we live in now. So I'm just trying to imagine if it ever happens in Ghana, what we are going to do.
Use the closest is when the cable, undersea cable cut.
Oh my God.
And
that was last year around February, March.
Exactly. So
all transactions, you go to the bank, they tell you, oh, unfortunately the internet, it was crazy just for those few days.
I went to ECG.
I was all over.
Yeah, it was so
okay. That is just a tip.
That is just
a tip of what can actually happen. We pray it never happens. May Ghana continue to be an example to be
I pride myself as a Ghanaian anytime I'm talking about shutdown, because I would be like, my government has not done it before. And you know when governments do bad things, they don't want you to talk about it. And so it makes people uncomfortable. But it's always a pride for me to
you're able to talk about it confidently and freely.
My government understands and respects our rights, and so that would not happen in Ghana any day soon.
Okay, good. So before we go on a quick commercial break, let's look at, we are all talking about other countries, but Ghana has no experiences. Like you said, until recently, Kenya was one of the countries you talk about, but now they've done it, and you can't even use them as an example. But Ghana not doing it does not mean that there are not other forms of people deliberately using the internet to suppress or oppress journalists. Your job, for instance. There's been instances where a journalist puts something out there, and then there's an attack that, okay, what you're saying, you're speaking against this. Of course, I understand defamation and libel and all of that, yes. But then, do you think journalists in Ghana are free?
Well, we have our constitution guarantees, at Article 21, guarantees freedom of expression, both offline and online.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what we need to use to hold authorities accountable. Journalists should be free to speak up their mind. I know a lot of countries are using all the online misinformation, disinformation, to curtail fundamental rights like freedom of expression. But even if we move away from what we have as a country, there are also like regional and international frameworks that Ghana is signatory to. So the International Covenants for Civil and Political Rights, for instance, guarantees these fundamental rights. And Ghana also is signatory to the African Charter for People and Human Rights. So I think it's important for us to continue to identify these frameworks that oblige authorities to respect fundamental human rights, and then going forward, we can use that to fight in court or to even challenge the decisions that they make as civil society and as human rights defenders.
All right, thank you for that. Let's go on a quick commercial break. Right in Focus with Aflag is sponsored by Aflag, an organization that sees to the rights of women, children, and the youth. We ensure access to justice. We also ensure economic empowerment and health rights of all. To sponsor this show, you can contact us on any of the numbers that are scrolling. We are also supported by Oriental Resort Hotel. As you see this beautiful garden, it's a garden that you can use for any of your outdoor events. It also have conference facilities and a nice place for your weekend getaway with a loved one or even with family. They have good food that you would enjoy. And also thank you to Praise TV for showing this show every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Stay with us and we'll be right back. Escape to luxury, elegance and tranquility at Oriental Resort Hotel, your premier destination in North Legon. Whether you are looking for a relaxing getaway, unwind in our spacious, beautifully designed rooms, indulge in exquisite dining, and experience world-class hospitality, enjoy our top-tier conference facilities, all designed for your comfort. Planning a special event? Our beautiful garden provides the perfect setting for outdoor weddings, private parties, and corporate gatherings, offering a breathtaking ambience that makes every occasion unforgettable. At Oriental Resort Hotel, every moment is an experience of luxury and serenity. Book your stay today. Call 0246 518632 or 055 250 4470, or visit our website at www.orientalresortghana.com. Oriental Resort Hotel, where comfort meets elegance. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, Felicia, you were discussing the fact that we don't have it in Ghana. But before we go back to some of the suppression that we experience here in Ghana, though we don't have internet shutdown, I want you to explain to us, when governments shut down the internet, do you think they use that avenue to perpetuate crime? And what kind of crime?
All right. So whenever a shutdown happens, what we've seen is that you're likely to also document human rights abuses. And these are serious human rights abuses, from assault, rape, murder, torture, like real human rights abuses. And what you need to, let me use a case that happened, maybe take us back to Sudan in 2019 during the Khartoum massacre. And before the shutdown even happened, the government, I think, kicked out Al Jazeera that was covering the protests that were happening at that time against the then government that was later ousted by the military. And on the day of the shutdown, so Al Jazeera left a few days before, or weeks, and then there was a massive protest that was supposed to happen in Khartoum and across Sudan. And on the day of the protest, I think it was June 3rd, the military shut down the internet, or the then government shut down the internet And
were they in a military regime?
it was under al-Bashir.
Okay.
And there were a lot of protests against his governance style, you know, economic hardship, corruption, and all that. And he was ousted by the military.
Military, okay.
And
More
so,
like a coup d'etat.
Yeah. So they took over and they shut down the internet, and the brutalities that we documented when the internet was back.
But that's absurd, because if you are against the, you know, the leadership of one person, and you use military to overthrow the person, shouldn't you be in the interest of the citizens? Because I think that's what you are fighting for. So why do you not take over and oppress or suppress the citizens?
Well, I'm not able to answer that because both of us are not in that position. But it's a very valid question.
Yeah.
Well, I could use another example from Gabon, where in 2023, you know, Ali Bongo had been in power for like so many
long,
years.
Yeah.
So they had elections in August 2023, and on the eve of elections, I think when the elections were closing, the government decided to shut down the internet. And, you know, it was just questionable, because we all know when the internet is shut down, you know that the incumbent wants to mess around with the outcome of the elections. Lo and behold, he was declared the winner of that election. There were a lot of criticism,
pushbacks,
like how it's not possible, and you know. And then what happened was that he was overthrown by the military. And surprisingly, the first thing they did, even before I talk about them restoring internet access, Ali Bongo, when they restored internet access, went online, recorded a video, and was calling for help. And shared, he was like, we should share the video, like share the video and call, more like asking for help.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if the military had not restored internet access, where would your message get to?
Yeah.
Because I was in Ghana, but I was able to see that message. So it really depends on the dynamics of who is in control and what they tend to achieve with some of these actions. And so Gabon has elections coming up tomorrow. We've sent an open letter to the government to ensure that the transitional government, which is the military, to ensure that they hold to whatever the promise or the actions of 2023 when they came into power, restoring internet access, and ensure that a shutdown doesn't happen throughout the electoral process in the country. So it's really concerning, because when a shutdown happens, it also means that the journalists, activists, human rights defenders that would keep an eye on the atrocities happening on the ground would not be able to do that.
And they can report it.
Exactly.
For help and everything. Yeah. Okay, so coming back to Ghana, we talk about freedom of speech, and we talk about the fact that we've never experienced internet shutdown, but we experienced other things like cyberbullying and all of that. I want you to try to draw a parallel between the freedom that we have to express ourselves and using that freedom to abuse other people.
Yeah, I think, that's a very big issue to tackle, and especially online gender-based violence is really, really a huge challenge. And especially if you're an outspoken woman, you get bullied, called all kinds of names online. People try to bully you to get you out. So we can have these abuses in the form of cyber bullying, which is just bullying me to get offline or to stop or to self-censor. You can also have it in the form of cyber stalking. There's also doxing, where they put your information out there, like they put maybe my picture, my family information, your my house number, any information that is private, so people can either call me to threaten me, come to my house to you know, throw stones at, like just
it's happening,
get you out of the way. But then we do have the Cybersecurity Act that was adopted in Ghana, and it does punish these perpetrators of such, or these actions. And so I think that is an important step. And a lot of civil society is also documenting the experiences of people that are targeted by technology facilitated violence. So I think we need to do that. For us as people that use the internet, I feel like sometimes when you talk about internet, people think it's just the computer cables.
No, it goes
but
beyond
it's about
that.
connecting people, like bringing people together and bringing people closer. So I think we need to be more respectful on these platforms. Like, you're using the internet, you can express yourself without insulting anybody. Let's tackle
without
issues.
hurting somebody. Yeah.
Let's tackle issues and not personalities.
But apparently
of
that's
people.
what gives them engagement. That's what makes them popular. That's what makes them gives them the engagement that will help them make money off social media.
Well, if you do it and you abuse people and you get reported, the big tech companies also have the responsibility of restricting you or making sure that you comply with their community standards or the standards that guide activities on their platforms. That is not to say we need to censor people, but then we need to also get people to understand that, yes, it's the internet, but it doesn't, people think the internet is a space where you cannot be identified. That is not the case.
No. That's
You
what they
can
think.
be
You can be
identified
easily.
and it never forgets, as we always say. So you have to be mindful of the things you post there, because one day it will come biting you and you'll be wondering, how does this person know? Maybe you go apply for a job and maybe you had insulted me.
Yeah.
Or you had said some really harsh things about me. Or you did not stick to the facts of the issues. You just spread all kind of information about me in that process. So I think it's more of us being more responsible. And you might say regulation, but who is to regulate? Who can we leave that
responsibility to?
Exactly.
To
Is
the
it the government? No.
Yeah.
If we leave it in the hands of the government, then what happens if it starts violating our rights?
No,
I
so
feel
that would then bring me to my next question. Maybe, do you think the government has the right to shut down or limit, or some social media sites, some websites and all? Because we have other countries practicing that. Do you think the government should be able to do that, to regulate a bit?
You see, the question is, what is a bit?
Yeah. How do you measure a bit?
Exactly. And someone's a bit is
somebody's extreme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put regulation in the hands of one stakeholder. If it comes to the issue, we want to tackle the issue of violence online, all the stakeholders, we need to be in the room. Because if you leave it in one, and mind you, you're trying to fix a situation, and that is what shutdowns are. It's a knee-jerk reaction to crisis. I don't think any government sits down and thinks through, okay,
this is not the actual solution.
No, it's not. It's the laziest way of
dealing with the situation, a critical issue.
And it doesn't even deal with the situation in the first place.
It worsens it. From the explanation you've given.
Yeah. It amplifies the spread of misinformation because you shut down the internet.
They don't have access to information.
How do I verify the information? During the COVID pandemic, we saw governments shutting down the internet when they were the same governments telling us, move online, work from home,
everything.
And you are shutting down the internet. So what do I do in that case? So I think it's a more of multi-stakeholderism for us to consider if we want to have a decent digital space. But then,
so again, as much as there is some responsibility on the government, there's also some responsibility on us. And I'm going to again state that some people deliberately sit in the comfort of their homes, and that is all they do to get engagement. And sometimes it's not just about getting engagement, but also it is the work they do. They are bloggers. Okay, all they do, and then they express their thoughts. They think they are giving out the right information, and then they are apprehended. And even when this apprehension is by the government, it will be fine. Let's use this guy, this very serious activist on Twitter. I don't know his full name, but he goes by the name Bongo Ideas. That's the one. What happened to him? Like, he was so vocal, he was very expressive. Of course, other people think that his content is not good because he tends to bully people and hurt people's feelings a lot. But when whatever it is that happened to him, we were all, empathetic, sympathetic towards it, and we felt whoever did that went extreme. Till this, I don't think anybody can establish who actually you know, I don't even know whether to use the word kidnap or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it kidnap? So they kidnapped him, whatever, like whatever happened to him.
We don't have the,
we don't have the yes.
Yes.
So what happened? It can happen to anyone. And this is not something we should sleep on. But at the same time, we should also be careful about the information we bring out. So how my point is, how do you navigate the two?
Yeah, it's a very valid question, and it's, you know, I feel like maybe my short response is, you can state your thoughts, you can state whatever you think, your opinion, without insulting people or denigrating anyone. Like, and so that is something I'm actually surprised that people enjoy his content. If there's anyone that enjoys his content,
he has his following.
It's, I don't know what exactly I'll be looking for. And some of the things, once you start reading them, and you just know that this is just to get people to maybe to trend or to, you know, trend, and so I wouldn't waste my time on it. But I don't know how many people would react that way towards it. Some people enjoy it. Oh, they are insulting each other, and you'll be watching videos from videos. It really doesn't benefit me as a person, and so I wouldn't waste my time listening to.
No, you see, because of who you are more interested in information that will maybe educate you, empower you, enlighten you, and maybe entertain you a bit. But other people are so idle. All they want to do is to go online and engage in such posts.
Well, and with their own data. But then I wouldn't sit on TV and recommend that because somebody insulted me or because somebody passed a comment about me and I didn't like, the person should be abducted or should be beaten or should be treated or maltreated. But then maybe there are some processes you could have gone through. If he made comments that you did not like, you can take the person to
better
court.
Ways to
like,
deal with it.
You can deal with it maturely rather than
what they did to him,
going like to the extreme.
Yeah.
And I would say that if we cannot allow that to happen, at the same time, people also need to be respectful. In sharing their opinion. And I will stick to the point of, let's tackle the issues and not
the people. Like, exactly.
If I've said something you don't like, let's
deal with the issue. Like, leave my personality out. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Now, we are out of time, but because this is an international issue, I would want us to look at what international solution, what do you think the UN and other international bodies can do to, put an end to this?
We work with the UN a lot. The UN has passed a number of resolutions denouncing internet shutdowns. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights also put out a report highlighting the impact of internet shutdowns and urging diverse stakeholders, which was like a multi-stakeholder actors, to ensure that they, take measures to stop this from happening. And then when we come back home, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights recently, that was in March last year, adopted a resolution that urges states to refrain from shutting down the internet during elections. And even in times of crisis, the previous resolution even tells them not to disrupt access, even in times of crisis. Is it conflict, protest, whatever you are dealing with? When you shut down the internet, what exactly does it resolve? It doesn't resolve anything. And so we have these frameworks and also like statements from the Freedom Online Coalition, which I mentioned earlier, has also put out statements denouncing governments that resort to the use of internet shutdown.
So when they denounce such governments, what do they do to them?
Well, that is for them to deal with each other. We are civil society actors, and we've drawn your attention to the actions of your fellow government. So that is something they deal with behind the scenes. And we've also seen some court cases.
Your last words.
Yes. I think it's important for us to be aware of these issues. Sometimes when you talk about digital rights, people don't even know
what
about
it
it. Yeah. And I just want to use this platform to say that it exists. Most people think you can be in the internet space by being like an engineer or doing science, technology, maths, like the core engineering and mathematics. But you can, I'm in this space and I advocate for rights. Tech policy, it's really important.
Okay.
We need to understand the connection between the technology we use and how it affects people and our rights. And we can continue to work together, urge governments to keep it on. Thank you.
As you heard the experts, we need to urge the government to keep it on. Keep it on is actually one of their major coalitions. It's a coalition that they use as far as this internet shutdown thing to educate and to ensure that countries that are practicing that put an end to it. If you did not get it, what she said today is that internet shutdown actually exists. Simply because we are not experiencing it here in Ghana does not mean it is not existing in other places. And as we can see, behind all of this shutdown are crimes, human rights violations. And as an organization like ours that is keen on ensuring that people's rights are protected, we stand against any form of internet shutdown and will call on international bodies to do their best to make sure that this comes to an end. Every mechanism that is in place that they can use to ensure that this comes to an end should be used at all costs, because we can't continue to say that because internet is going to give information to other people to bring help, you, because of your political selfishness, will put an end to it, will shut it down to oppress people. Thank you so much, Felicia Antonio, for coming on to educate us on internet shutdown. It's been great having you, and we hope that when next we call you, you will come on to talk more about this or other topics. And here at Aflag, we are sweet people, so when you come, we give you a beautiful mug to put in your... Okay, because she's always globetrotting, we urge her to put it in her bag, so that wherever she goes, her coffee, her tea, she'll use the Aflag mug. Thank you so much for coming.
I appreciate it.
And we hope that when next we call you, you'll come on.
Of course, yeah. You can call me always. I'll be here.
Okay. And to our viewers, thank you for staying with us. Enjoy your evening, but make sure that you do not use the internet to bully people. Use it to express your views and your points, but never to bully or suppress anyone's rights. Until next time, do enjoy your weekend and stay blessed. Bye.
This show is brought to you by Aflag, Praise TV, and Oriental Resort Hotel.